Ladies and gentlemen, maybe we should start with the regulatory bodies. Thank you for coming in today. Thank you to all our industry leaders. I can spot a lot from here and go in this direction. My name is Tinuade Oguntui, and I work as the GM Technical at Information Connectivity Solutions Limited. We are a premium ISP here in Nigeria, homegrown, and we're doing really wonderful things. And today, Temi Oshunrede has brought us together as the Africa hyperscalers while we'll be looking at the MVNO space. Honestly, it's not a time to push blames. It's not a time to say, oh, why are we lagging? It's time to really cross-examine what our issues are, what the key blockers are, and how we can move past all of this. And to do justice to this session today, industry leaders, our regulatory bodies that will be dealing with what we are going through right now and how we can move ahead. Whether we like it or not, the digital divide in Nigeria is a thing of concern, especially now that we have a number of connected devices everywhere and there. You definitely know that we need to do more. So data centers are not left out in this. Also, how we make this new form of business or a business model to also drive this growth to work. So today, MVNO Nigeria 2025, we are unlocking growth today. We are unlocking competition. And I say competition reservedly, because we know without the competition, we will not be innovative. And of course, we want to look at some of the challenges and, like I said before, how we walk past this. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished leaders in the house, please make welcome Mr. Temi Oshunrede as he gives us the welcome address. Please jam it together for him. I know leaders are always very conservative with claps, but please let's encourage him. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tinuade. Good morning, everyone. And it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us at the MVNO session. And the fact that we have an almost full room is because there's a lot of optimism about MVNO in Nigeria today. Even from we planned a small event because we had expected the MVNOs were not a lot, maybe a few people aside that, but we got 4x in registrations. So we see that clearly there is a lot of optimism and people want a lot of clarity around MVNO today. So we are here to talk about MVNO, highlight the opportunities. Sorry, give me a minute, please. Okay, we're here to talk about the MVNO opportunity in Nigeria. Obviously, there are many things that we have to address, but there are many things that are in our favor. We have the population, growing population. We have a digital exclusion gap. If you look at the stats, about 45% are within mobile coverage. And then fixed is maybe 5% or less. So obviously there is opportunity for that. And then we have an engaging and committed regulator who obviously has also recently increased the tariff and made stimulated investment in digital infrastructure across the country. So we see a lot of that happening. So this is the right time for us to tap into this opportunity and address, at least, yes, there are issues. Everywhere, if you speak about MVNO today, on every side, there are very strong arguments on why this should work or why this cannot work. We understand all that, but we're here to say, okay, where are we now? Where do we need to go? And how do we get there? And that is all we're here to do today. We have brought some international experts who have vast experience with MVNO in other markets. We have people who are going to talk about MVNO successes in Africa and other markets. We have the local MVNOs themselves. We have MNOs. We just want to have a very robust conversation about the way forward. And then the outcomes of this is what we can now use to begin to execute what can look like an MVNO roadmap for Nigeria. And if we're able to achieve those things, then we'll say that this event has been very successful. So that said, we welcome you again. We thank all our speakers who have joined us today. Niki Bubola from WIOC, Mr. Teniola from IPNX, Mr. Tony from Artron. We have Hamish White from Mobilize. We have Mrs. Tenny Stoffman from Lebara. And we have a lot of other speakers here today. We have Satya Mekala from WTL. We have Dr. Tuni Kuka, who is joining us soon. We have Dr. Ayobami, who is on the call. So we're here to just have robust discussions around this. That said, thank you all for coming, and we wish us a very fruitful, a very impactful, a very interesting and reflective conversation around the MVN opportunity in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kemi. Thank you for that amazing welcome address. Okay, I think I'm settled in now. Okay, to do justice to the keynote today is no other than the person I call my Oga at the top, is the current sitting president of ARTCON. If you root for ARTCON, please wave, yeah. Okay, I root for ARTCON, so I will wave. So he's the director of MangoNet, and is an amazing person. I mean, at different times, I've met Mr. Tony in country and outside the country, and I tell you, he would do justice. I remember one interaction I had with him then, and he told me, let me wear this hat. So I don't know how many hats he will wear today. Let's make welcome Mr. Tony Izuagbe. I guess I got that right. Please, let's jam it together. Please, we encourage that we use a lot of round of applause to encourage people. Thank you so much, sir.
I think I'm a bit taller, so I can move this up. Good morning, everyone. I think this is a very intimate setting. So I would like us to be less formal. I think we're a nice close bunch. But since I have to give a keynote address, I have to do it in a bit of a formal manner. So I'll start by saying good morning, distinguished guests, regulators if they are here present, operators, partners, friends of this ecosystem. Really, it's an honor and a privilege for me to be here today to give a keynote address on this very important and I think timely issue. As Timmy said in his opening welcome address, there's been a lot of, I would say, concerns, worries, doubts about this subject, and I think having this discussion is very key. So let me just set the stage for our discussion today. The Nigerian telecoms landscape, we all know how it has been growing from the time when we had just 500,000 lines in 2001 to the liberalization and what we have now. The millions and millions, we talk of millions and millions of subscribers. So one will say, why MVNO? But beneath these numbers, we have still challenges. We have challenges in rural communities. We have challenges in underserved areas. Some operators are here present. We also have challenges among the youth. We have challenges. There are still a large number of unbanked Nigerians, and all these are opportunities. And all these kind of sectors remain digitally excluded. And of course, with the high inflation, the high data costs, limited service differentiation, we still talk about internet service, but it's just a service. What is the differentiation we're having in that market? Affordability, relevance, we still have a lot of people who still don't have the access. So I think that's why we had this introduction of the MVNO in Nigeria into the market. And I think it's both strategic and timely. MVNOs, when properly structured, enable and can be accelerators for inclusion. They can be drivers for innovation, and they can be agents of competition in ways that have not been fully explored. So why this MVNO matter? around the world, MVNOs have proven the ability to create value where traditional MNOs either cannot or will not go. They have done so through many means: niche targeting, serving youth, immigrants, small businesses, ethnic communities, and price-sensitive consumers. Service bundling, integrating mobile connectivity with digital content, financial services, transport, or energy payments. Also, agile operations, achieving leaner cost structures, and they are actually faster to market. We see that already in other spaces. So in Nigeria, MVNO can deliver customized offerings in local language. They can add supported data access. They can actually integrate fintech plans into their offerings. And they can also be hyper-local content and service providers. So these are the broad opportunities we see that this MVNO market can have. But at the end of the day, we have to have a reality check. So let's be honest. While the opportunity is real, the obstacles are also very real. Several MVNOs are still unable to commence operations, and one will ask why. Because there are no enforceable service level agreements with MNOs. Wholesale pricing is still opaque, and unregulated. Technical integration is still difficult and inaccessible. And some MNOs still see MVNOs as threats rather than enablers. And I think these are real truths. I'm sure there are some of our players here, and we don't need to kid about it. Also, the economics of telecom in Nigeria is challenging. We have a low average revenue per user. We have high churn rates. We see movement from operators to operators. We still see the security risks and definitely power issues. So we must ask, are we building a pathway to growth or a maze of regulatory frustration? So the answer depends on what we all do next. And I think this discussion we're going to have today will all frame up that picture. So the bigger picture: growth, competition, connectivity. So let's turn to the theme of the conference: unlocking growth, competition, and connectivity. Now we'll take it one by one. Growth. MVNOs are a gateway for new entrants, digital startups, content providers, and non-traditional telecom players like banks, retailers, fintechs, and even educational institutions. I remember I was the time I was at a Walmart in the US, and you can buy a SIM card from Walmart, and there are other perks. Loyalty points are tied to your Walmart SIM card, things of that nature. So if supported with the right tools, clear interconnect guidelines, wholesale access, technical support, these players can spark growth, job creation, local investment, and new revenue models. The revenue models we still have in our sector is still very, very, there's no differentiation at all. But we must remember, licensing is not the destination. And I would like to plead with all those who have MVNO license to take heed to this. It is just a starting point of what must be a guided, collaborative, and commercially viable journey. 2, competition. True competition is about how many players, it's not about how many players we license, but it's about how much choice, innovation, and value each licensee brings to the end user. So we need to see that MVNO licensees actually understand that to be an MVNO, it must be an issue where you're creating value to the end user. It's not just a license to roll out services. And then the elephant in the room, connectivity. Ultimately, we must focus on delivering universal and reliable, affordable connectivity to all Nigerians, not just in coverage maps, but in real lives. MVNOs need to target real issues, solve real problems, provide real value And we hope and I believe that the discussions and maybe some of the players are here will throw a light on this. The role of collaboration. So this is not the time for us to work in silos. MVNOs cannot succeed without the collaboration of MNOs. MNOs cannot grow new business models and border reach without new businesses. And obviously, MVNOs will have a part to play in that. Infrastructure players need more tenants. Fintech need new customer channels. Regulators need evidence of impact. In short, everybody needs everybody. At ATCON, we are fully committed to championing this collaboration, and I believe that, Temi, you have arranged I hope I've touched everybody who is here. We need to collaborate. This is not a time to point fingers, like he rightly said, or like our host rightly said. So looking ahead, what must happen? Here's what we need to do practically and urgently. Regulators must move from encouragement to enforcement. Wholesale access must be real, not just regulatory text. MNOs must adopt a platform mindset, monetizing excess capacity by enabling MVNOs, not blocking them. This is where I think this MVNOs must be clear-eyed about their models. We need to hear what are the offerings. All these licensees, what are your real offerings to the consumer? You must focus on niche markets, execute well, and deliver superior customer experience. And this is the key, because we all know the customer experience we're all having today from all operators. And this is an opportunity for MVNOs. Financiers and investors must support this layer of telecom innovation, knowing that returns may come from scale, not speed. So in conclusion, I'll say Nigeria is not short for talent. We have seen that already. And we are not short for ideas. But we must now deliver and execute. And MVNOs must deliver and execute. MVNOs are not just a commercial opportunity. They are a policy instrument for digital inclusion, economic empowerment, and national resilience. So I call upon all of us here, let us unlock growth, not just in GDP, but in access and opportunity. Let us drive competition, not just in price, but in innovation and relevance. Let's pursue connectivity, not just for a privileged few, but for every Nigerian, wherever they live, whatever they earn, and whatever their dreams. The future of telecommunication in Nigeria is actually virtual, inclusive, and collaborative. And I dare say the future begins now, and I hope this discussion will lead us to that future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tony. Thank you. If there is anything I picked, like the niche market, which is very important. Just last week, I was having a discussion with some people while we were talking about the unconnected in Nigeria, especially. And there was this statement that was made that not everybody can Google it. In fact, beyond just Googling it as it is now, some people can't even access the regular 2G service. A colleague of mine then traveled home because they lost a loved one. And when he got back, we couldn't reach him. And by the time he arrived, he told us what he experienced in the village in Cote was just nothing to write home about. That means there's still millions out there that needs to get connected, needs to come online. And the MVNO space is that which we are trusting we really do justice to this. And Mr. Tony also mentioned something about the regulators moving from encouragement to enforcement. please let the enforcement be a little light too, so that we don't have, if you don't use it, you lose it, because there's a lot of money that gone in actually. But at the same time, I think we should not always be about the rush to get the license, but the end goal to really serve, impact, and make more people come online. Not until then, we probably will not be able to unlock the Commonwealth of Nigeria and Africa as large, at large. Okay, so thank you so much, sir, once again for that. And next, we have our online speaker that will be presenting, and is no other than Dr. Ayobami Oladejo. And Dr. Ayobami Oladejo is the Managing Director of DG Practice. He will be presenting to us shortly, and I hope we will enjoy and take some nugget from it. Thank you so much.
Please let me know if you can hear me properly. Good morning. Okay, good. I'm just trying to get access to share my screen so I can share my presentation.
We have it.
Thank you.
We have it on screen already. Can you see?
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought I was going to share myself.
Oh,
okay,
no, no.
thank you.
Do you want to share yourself? We can.
Yes, if you can.
Okay,
I think it's.
Go ahead and share. We'll take it down.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. Please confirm that you can see my screen. Okay. All right. Thanks again to the organizers and everyone today. Would have loved to be present physically, but I think we are in a virtual world, and we can also still make impact speaking virtually. So I'll be talking about the critical strategic choices for the success of the MVNO model in Nigeria. So just a few things that I will go through. So just very small overview of the African MVNO landscape, and then we'll talk about the strategic choices for the MVNOs. And after that, we also discuss what the MNOs themselves should be considering. And then we move on to the regulatory imperatives, and finally, some final thoughts. Okay, so Africa has actually been doing fairly well when it comes to the MVNO business model. Everybody talks about South Africa. I think that is clear. South Africa has done, a very good job when it comes to the MVNO market. Back in 2006 when Virgin Mobile launched, but today we have so many people or companies that have tried to play in the MVNO space. But today we've got only 13 major players, and this includes banks, retailers, and some very brave organizations that are actually greenfields. We'll talk a little bit more about the greenfield issue as we go on in the presentation. Now, one of the things that the operator has done really nicely, the regulator has done really nicely in South Africa, is that they use Kenya, Libya, with MVNOs. And of course, I think if you look at the picture, there are certain places where MVNO is not a thing, but there are places where it's just starting, and then we have Nigeria that is actually the reason we are talking today. But of course, we get lessons from some of the places where this has actually worked, and the challenges that are being faced. Now, I want to talk about the strategic choices for MVNOs. I think the first one is about moving fast and focus. So, I loved Mr. Tony's address. I think it's as if we put this deck together, as we see. A lot of the things he has said, I'm going to have to repeat again. So it is really important that the reason for being an MVNO is that you are supposed to be light, agile, very quick, and you need to be able to react. Now, when we talk about identifying niches, so one of the things we must remember is that you can't really compete with the MNOs because these guys have deeper pockets. They've been doing this for more than 20 years now. So you need to think of where they've not done very well and address those places. I'll give you an example. There's an MVNO in Sweden called Telnäs. So Telnäs started as an MVNO that addressed SMEs. So they looked at the way the mobile operator that the founder was working in, realized that the MNOs were not servicing the small and medium enterprises very well. There were no PABX offering for SME, and just like most of these MNOs focused more on the normal consumer market. So these guys then went and formed Telnäs. Now Telnäs became very successful because of their focus on the niche of small and medium enterprises. Eventually, they built a very good stack themselves that other companies started coming to them to say, okay, what stack are you using that made you so successful? And today, Telnäs now has a company that actually sells MVNO, OSS, BSS stack to MVNOs like yourselves. So it's really an important thing to look at the market and see where the opportunities actually are. So and that for me is really important. Now, in a market like Nigeria, I believe one of the most critical things is to look inwards and think about the issue with starting a greenfield MVNO. It's not impossible. The challenge is that you will need to spend a lot of money, in customer acquisition cost. But how do you find solution to that? A strategic choice is to look at organizations that have numbers. So I'm not going to mention those churches, but we know some churches with big numbers. It can also be an Islamic organization with very huge numbers. I have a feeling that some people in the room already have those kind of conversations, but if you have not, it's just a no-brainer. Partner with such organizations, launch the MVNO, even if possible, if you can have the brand name in their name, that's fine. And just imagine that apart from normal calls or SMSs and all that are already thinning out when it comes to revenue, a product might be just even distributing daily devotional from the geo. Just think about those things. So it's really important to think deeper than just trying to launch the same kind of offering that the MNOs have launched. There are also financial service organizations with big numbers that don't have ambitions of starting their MVNOs. Talk to them, partner with them, do their technology partner and even operational partner, and make it happen. The third thing I want to talk about is that an MVNO has to be a lean machine. You are not an MNO, so you should not be having a very bloated workforce. I will give you an example. In South Africa, one of the most exciting MVNOs in South Africa is one called Melon Mobile. Melon Mobile is doing well when it comes to the way they've positioned their offering in the market. It's very flexible, their pricing and all that. The one thing that they've done very well is their lean system. When they started, they had less than 10 people. It's just now that they are growing that they are increasing their workforce because, of course, the growth is coming. So be very careful about thinking that an MNO has to have, MVNO has to have 100 people to start. No. And what will make it easy for you is that you should learn from the MNOs, the mistakes they've made and the good things they've done. Let your business process be very simple and reasonable. And of course, choose the right technology stack to power this MVNO, because if you don't, then that's when you need a lot of people. Now, if you've done all these things properly, you won't have to hire so many people to start. And please don't replicate the operation model of MNOs. Think of how you should run an MVNO. Think of it as a very digital, lean startup. And of course, when the time comes and you see the numbers, you are welcome to start having more people. Then next, I will talk about MNO strategic alignment. Now, you are not competing with the MNOs. You can actually not compete with them. You can disrupt them in certain areas where they are not strong, but they have to be your partners. And that's why you have to make sure that you are partnering with the right MNO that understands that you are not their competition. You have to have mutual ambitions, prevent cannibalization, find ways to have unique propositions that are not necessarily traditional MNO models. And of course, I don't know how this is happening today, but if you've signed contracts with the MNOs without any form of capacity planning discussions, it's a big problem. Because imagine that you're an MVNO and we can't make calls or we can't use data, then what is the use of that? So it's important to have that, with your lawyers, at least have some sort of things written down. I know this is maybe difficult, but we'll talk about that when we're addressing the regulation, the regulatory aspect of all this. And of course, you need to understand your market nuances. So people, when we talk a lot about the opportunity, especially in underserved markets and all that. Now, the challenge you might find is that in most of the underserved areas, apart from the fact that the connectivity might be very bad, that it's almost difficult to even start any form of MVNO in those places or to target those kind of places. The other issue is the education aspect. So where MVNOs have worked very well, you find that it's almost 100% digital journeys. So meaning the buy, the sell, whatever you want to do, the operation aspect, they are all maybe on a mobile app or a web platform. Now, if you are trying to target markets that don't have a lot of education or digital literacy, the problem is that you've already failed upfront. So you need to be very careful and understand the nuances in these things, and don't fall for the hype about underserved areas without adequately thinking upfront how you are going to address that. And of course, in South Africa, I've also seen now some MVNOs partnering with physical retail businesses. So, for instance, if you feel that some people may not, be amenable to receiving their SIM cards by courier, you can partner with, like a ShopRite or a ban or whatever, to say people can actually go in there and get their SIM cards. Now, you must then think very carefully if this is good enough for you from a cost perspective. Are you happy to you must model it and make sure that this is actually good enough. The companies, the influencers have seen it do it nicely outside of Nigeria. It's not their first choice, but if they are growing and they feel that there is an opportunity, they use this kind of methods. The commercials, linking back to what I just said. One, let your offerings and pricing be very simple. It shouldn't be gymnastics. Now, in South Africa, one of the MVNOs I admire, what they've done is they've allowed consumers to choose what they want. So like the way some MNOs do their bundling can be very interesting, where they are giving you a lot of SMSs that you don't need, and maybe a lot of voice that you don't need, but very little data. Just playing the game. So these ones have now decided no, they would want you choose what you actually want. If you want 20 gigabytes of data, but you only want 15 minutes of voice and no SMS, they're happy to price it for you and in a nice way. So you need to think of these kind of things. Of course, this must be tied to the kind of wholesale agreement that you have, and that is still sensible, to do that. You also need to think of being a digital brand from day one. Don't stick to only mobile product. Don't make the mistake of thinking you are just there to sell airtime. You should be having very interesting digital propositions, can be even financial technology and many other things that, because you are also coming in without what we call legacy infrastructure problems. You are new, so you are choosing very good digital stack, so you can bundle a lot of interesting things. I'll give you an example. There's an MVNO in South Africa that is now one of the most preferred roaming partners for some of these eSIM organizations. Think about that. Like people coming to Nigeria, how easy is it for them to roam on a Nigerian network? It's difficult. Sometimes you come, the journey is not smooth and all that. But if you as a digital MVNO are able to close these kind of deals and integrate properly, it might be something considering. But again, there are so many other interesting products that you can build on your offerings. Now, your cost accounting you must be brutal about it. Get your cost drivers to be very clear. Don't underprice yourself. Because you are not like a startup like that. When I say startup, there's a lot of startups that will raise millions of dollars and they will burn it with customer acquisition and all those kind of things. Maybe even not taking any profit, but eventually some will succeed because they will sell. But for this business model, it may not necessarily work for you. So think about it properly. And I will say it again: don't spend so much on customer acquisition costs. Rather find interesting ways to get customers by partnering with those who already have some sort of customer base. It works much better. And it's also good to understand the switching behavior of Nigerians. People in Nigeria change SIM cards, like very easily. People have 4 SIM cards. If this one is giving a better call rate today, they will change. It's just the way the market works. Understand that very nicely. Also, you have to also make peace that most likely when people actually get your SIM card or your service, that you are a secondary SIM for a start, and it might be for a long time. Make peace with that you may not be the primary SIM. So be very careful and know how these things actually work in a place like Nigeria. And then finally, on the MVNO part, choose your stack carefully. So when I say choose your stack carefully, the reason you are an MVNO is agility. You need to be able to launch. So like if you want to launch a new product, it should take you minutes to configure it. If it's a complex one, you should launch it in less than a week. But if you are also like having the same issues with the MNO where some products are launched in 6 months to 1 year, then you are already in trouble. So when you are choosing the technology stack, make sure that you have people who actually understand how these things work and not get yourself into trouble from day one. And of course, finally, do not spend so much capex upfront. You've already spent a lot of money on licensing. As I said, in some other countries like South Africa, licensing doesn't cost a lot. In Nigeria, it's actually quite a bit, compared to South Africa. So that means you're already putting a lot of money upfront. So you have to be, creative about the stack you choose, the people you partner with, the revenue model they are talking to you about, the commercial model. Are they asking you to pay a lot of money upfront, or are they flexible to allow you to grow with them and you make money together as you grow? So now I want to quickly talk to the MNOs. I don't know if they have MNOs in the building, but if they are not, so even you as the MVNO, you can take some of these points, as we start having conversations with the MNOs. So one of the first things that we need to always understand is that it's not a zero-sum game, because to be sincere, if MVNOs are entering the market, MNOs will ask themselves, how do we respond? The interesting thing is that my PhD research actually talks about these kind of things, how you respond to like digital challenges. But again, the mistake some of the MNOs have made in some other markets is to become very competitive and actually miss out on the success that could come out of collaborations with MVNOs. So a good example is Saudi Talk. When these guys launched in Germany, it was on a network called E+. Now they've changed networks, but back then, the network actually, the host network actually experienced subscriber growth because they enabled Audi Talk to do very well. So one of the things that I have told MNOs, even in Nigeria, is that you need to attract the most viable MVNOs now, so that you actually have the MVNOs that are going to succeed on your network. That's what you need to do. Do not wait until all the good ones are gone. And that's very, very critical. Now, in South Africa, the B2C, which is the normal, we are selling airtime data to subscribers, it's slowing down, and all sales is actually increasing. So the network operators are now actually very interested in selling wholesale. And one of the reasons for wanting to do that is that it costs you less money to service wholesales. So think about if I'm selling 1 terabyte of data to just somebody, or 10 terabytes, and I'm selling thousands or millions of minutes to somebody without having to service them in a way that you service like 10 million subscribers or 1 million subscribers individually, but you're actually just having an account management dealing with an MVNO or an wholesale partner. So eventually you find that this is actually a very interesting business model, which is working nicely in other markets. So you need to think about it and not see it as an issue for you. It depends on the mindset. And again, as I said, do it early, support the right MVNOs, and you actually see that it's the better way to go. Also, when you start having excess capacity, which I think is going to happen with now that the NCC has approved tariff changes with that kind of percentage point, I feel that there will be more scrutiny on quality of service on the networks, and so it means networks are having to invest more money in capacity. You then discover eventually that some of you have excess capacity to sell. So when you have excess capacity to sell, who do you sell it to? MVNOs. And that's why you have to be MVNO friendly, so that you get those who actually are doing well to work with you. And finally, to the MVNOs, think about the reality that may happen very soon, where the regulators are going to come and say, okay, we need MVNOs to work, so and they start telling you what to do. To be prepared, the best thing is support those viable and promising ones now, so that you will not get yourself, having to run around and have this kind of problem in your hands. In South Africa, for instance, the MNOs have to support MVNOs, else it's actually there's things tied to even the spectrum allocations and some other things if they don't support MVNOs. Now let's talk about the regulatory imperatives. So the first thing I want to say is that everybody around Africa respects the NCC. NCC is known to be, very innovative, has done a very good job, and we knew that MVNO was just a matter of time, and it became a reality when these licenses were granted. But what we need to think about is what next. So the licenses have been given. It's important now to start talking about fair access times, and then the standardized wholesale pricing frameworks. Without these things being formalized, we can already say it's a waste of time for the people who have invested so much money in the MVNO licenses, and maybe have even started spending money on some sort of operations. It's unfair because these are the minimum regulatory thinking that actually goes into making sure that this becomes a reality. Else, everybody should just go and sleep. And I'm sorry that I'm being blunt about it, but it's time. Because without these things, if we really think we want to do this thing properly, we need to start, putting those frameworks and enforcing them fairly. The quality debate, I've mentioned it, when I was addressing the MNOs, but again, we need to say it again. Excess capacity debate with quality concerns. How do we ensure that Nigeria actually has real, the quality of service is actually great? Because without that, we should not deceive ourselves. If an MNO is struggling with capacity, what capacity do you want to sell to the MVNO? And you know that without great connectivity already you are failed as an MVNO. So how do we measure the MVNO quality that is dependent on the host MNOs? How do we address SLAs between MNOs and MVNOs? I think Mr. Tony also mentioned these things. It's really now time to be clear about these things so that we don't waste more time. Also, talking about viability. So we have, I think, 43 licenses, right? Now, the issue is this. How do we ensure that we have the right regulatory support for the MVNOs to succeed? And of course, how do we monitor the performance and have a framework to ensure ongoing viability? Meaning, we must come to a point where we are very blunt with ourselves. In cases where MVNOs have succeeded to some extent, you can support a number of MVNOs, not a lot. So I don't think Nigeria is a market that will support 100 MVNOs. I'm not even sure 50. So these conversations are difficult, but we have to get there, and ask ourselves how many MVNOs are going to be viable. But before we get there, we need these things that we've talked about first to actually happen, to give them a chance, and then we see, how the market, absorbs the MVNOs. And finally, to the regulators, I would like to talk about the anti-competition monitoring. So how do we ensure that we prevent predatory pricing? And what we mean by predatory pricing is when an MNO starts offering bundles and all that are cheaper than even the price that they are giving to wholesale to MNOs or to MVNOs, or even close enough that there is no margin. These are things that the NCC needs to think about, how to ensure that it doesn't happen. Integration and provisioning delays. How do we ensure that these projects don't take 2 years, and provisioning is always failing? How do we ensure that we give the MVNOs a chance to succeed? And finally, in some markets, what we've seen is that the MNOs then decide that they will not allow the MVNOs to use their 5G network, which is unfair, or even allow them to use eSIMs. So these are things that we need to think about upfront, before it starts becoming a reality. I'm not saying it's happening now. I'm saying that, proactively we need to think about these things. And finally, to the NCC. So we know, SIM registration is very important, especially for security purposes. But there are ways to make it happen where, the physical, let's say, SIM registration has happened for somebody on a particular, maybe MNO, and if an MVNO is being hosted by the MNO, are there ways to exchange the information in such a way that the MVNOs are not burdened with, mandatory physical SIM registrations? I don't know if that has been taken care of, but it's something to think about, especially because most MVNOs will have 100% digital journey to onboard subscribers. So these are the kind of things that we need to think about, to make them to at least have a chance of success. And then to some final points that I would like to mention. I know I have just 30 minutes, and these are things that we can talk for hours. But finally, let's talk about what do you think the effort is to integrate an MVNO to the host MNO. I know at least a few of the MVNOs in Nigeria are already going through this the process. The truth is, even the MNOs themselves, it's a learning curve for them to understand the best way to integrate the MVNOs. But what is really important is that we need to be sincere with ourselves. It is tough for an MNO to handle 20 integration projects at the same time, or even 5. I've seen situations where, even in South Africa, where this has been going on for a long time, that this project can go on for a long, long time. So we need to be very realistic. How do we ensure, and that's why the enablement team comes to mind very strongly. So some MVNO, especially the tier 5 licensed MVNEs, I think they stand a good chance of being MVNOs. They stand a good chance of actually being MVNEs. So what that means is that a few companies will be the ones that would have direct connectivity to the MNOs, and then some MVNOs would have the tenant on the MVNE stack. Of course, we've seen situations where that can also become conflict, or the MVNOs is not trusting the MVNE because the MVNE also has their own MVNO brand, and that becomes confusing. So what South Africa has done very well is that if you're an MVNE, they will prefer you to focus on being an MVNE. So you are the ones doing direct connectivity to the core network and of the host MNO, and then you become the one providing the technology that the MVNO needs to run their business, and that's the only business you are doing. So that you are also not an MVNO and then an MVNE. I've seen this play out in South Africa, and it's confusing, and it can actually cause problems for you eventually. The role of ecosystem, we need to cooperate, as an ecosystem. The NCC, the MVNOs, the MNOs, and especially within the MVNO circle, as in the issue of the enablement that I talked about. Instead of everybody trying to connect directly, if you identify an MVNE that just wants to be that, can we have, such things so that not everybody has to spend a lot of money doing the integration and paying so much money to do the work, it's wasting time. Imagine if you already have an MVNE and you are just running an MVNE on top of that stack. Then what then happens is that you can actually launch very quickly and not wait for the 6 months or 1 year lead time that the MNOs will give you, most likely. And finally, I want us to be very, blunt with ourselves. And I'll give you, so the question I'm asking is, what do you think is a fair overall target market share of MVNOs in Nigeria? So I'm saying, what percentage do you think MVNOs will capture in the mobile telecoms space in Nigeria? If I was in the room, I would have asked people to guess. I don't know if that is still possible. Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Let's say in the next 5 years or so. Is there anybody that can answer that question? I'm actually curious.
Yes, they're in the room. Does anybody want
to? If anybody can answer, what do you think is the fair overall target market share of MVNOs in Nigeria? Let's say in the next 5 years, what do you think? If if launched, everything is going fine, what part of this multi-billion-dollar market do you think will be captured by the MVNOs? No. Of the whole total mobile. So let's say the MTNs, Airtel, everybody, if it's $1 billion market, what part of that are we targeting as MVNOs in Nigeria?
Okay, the Tunde Koka here. Good morning. The reason I said what market is if it's just mobile subscribers, then it's very, very little ambition for the MVNOs. Is going on and doing what's there. That's not going to... The leverage to take market share for established MNOs is going to be tough. The key thing is differentiation. So what is the differentiated market, and what share would you be having of that differentiated market is what I would suggest we should be considering if MVNOs will be successful.
No, I totally agree with you on that one. There's a point I'm trying to make here, and that's the differentiation. That's where I'm going. I'm saying that the existing markets, as it is, because some people actually have a wrong idea, and I totally agree with you that this is where you're actually targeting. But that is wrong, because I'll give you a statistic. So South Africa has been doing this thing now as an MVNO, as you saw. It's been almost 20 years since the first MVNO launched. But I'm going to tell you today that all the MVNOs that are doing well in South, combine them together, they've only been able to get 5% of the existing mobile market share in South Africa. So And that's why the point I want to make before I drop the mic is that do not think that you are coming to take 20% of the existing market share. What you should be doing is the differentiation has been mentioned, to ensure that you know what you're actually going for from the beginning and not have the wrong idea of what you need to achieve. So with this, I want to thank everyone for listening, and I know that there will be a chance to ask questions, I believe, and also be happy to talk to anyone that is interested. My email address is here if you need to ask me anything. But thank you again for having me, and it was good interacting. Thank you.
Wow, what a journey. Thank you so much, Dr. Ayobami. That was really, really apt, and he really touched on a lot of things, also buttressing what Mr. Tony said while he was having the telecoms overview keynote address. I also want to say that while Mr. Tony had given us the telecom overview address, especially as it borders on Nigeria, Dr. Ayobami has also been able to just expound this and take it a little global while concentrating a lot on South Africa, which is fine, a kind of apple to apple kind of comparison, because it's an African country and of course they are doing what we really want to do. He touched on something that really hit so well, and that's about the market and the nuances. Honestly, most times we might care for people wrongly, and I think knowing that also helps. What are the things that are lacking? I do a lot of social impact work, and I can tell you for free that language is still a barrier, whether we like it or not. A lot of people can jump on things, and that's why it seems that there are a lot of security breaches these days, because people jump on devices just because they want to, but they don't understand a lot of things, and that way they still, make themselves prey to these bad guys. He has said a lot of things, and I hope we will also share the slides so that we can also deliberate. And of course, the shocking part is the market share. I think we'll leave that for us to still deliberate on. Without wasting our time and while thanking Dr. Ayobami, I want to bring on stage Dr. Ayotunde Koka, the CEO of Open Access Data Center, as he shares on the ecosystem development. Welcome, sir. Please, a round of applause.
Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Some good old faces here, and congratulations to some who have been re-elected into some offices, and so on. And we're delighted, and all the best. If I repeat what's been said earlier on, please forgive me, because I came in. I usually like to have been at the part of an event, so I can pick on what's been discussed and put it in context of what I speak about. But from what I kind of gathered, it should be complementary, because they said if you take market share, what market share? Existing market share, look at the total subscribers, I'm sure Atcon has probably everything on the NCC website of teledensity and everything. What are you going after? There are quite a few metrics that you choose to go after. But for what it's worth, if you do the same thing, same old, collective market 10%, right? If you find a way to differentiate, okay? I'll talk to some of those. Because when I started to put this presentation together, it made me go back in many, many ways in terms of the value proposition. I used to be digital director of a company called Eggbank in the UK 25 years ago, okay? First internet pure play bank. But one of the things we did was, it wasn't a bank, but it was a bank. But we had account carrier bank or banks, but we layered on it value-added services, credit cards, digital services, and so on. And we didn't get that we're going to set up a global intermediation platform of financial services that will then sell off through what the other banks might do. And I thought to myself, there's a similarity here, okay, with all of the MVNO stuff. So I started to put as you do sometimes, is the night before you get your inspiration and you think, oh, okay, yeah, what does this really look for MVNOs here? And how can you take that, he said 5%. So it's kind of, I guess if we just put it in the room, that looks like that collective percentage. It's small. You need to grow a different pie off a different base, okay? And put different icing on the cake that is partly baked on what's there. But even the MNOs now are trying to think out of the box on how they add value-added services, financial services. If you want to make money in this country, in Africa actually, you need to, I call about the sachet economy, and you earn small, but leverage the huge volume of the continent. You go to sleep, you're earning 5 naira per transaction, and the people giving you 5 naira per transaction don't realize it. It's the same for banking, it's the same for mobile telephony, it's the same for people in Nestle. I feel like, you buy a little sachet. By the time you buy the equivalent of these 10 sachets that make the big pack, you've paid twice the amount. But the only money you have at that point is your money for the sachet, and you don't equate the value of what you've said, but you don't have the cooling and all of those things we take for granted. That means you can use the box because it will spoil, right? Or you lose the opportunity if you buy too much airtime and you don't use it. You don't have money to say, unfortunately. No, you want to use it to the limit. So for MVNOs, there's a different approach. One, in terms of how you set yourself up efficiently, rapidly, and the way you create your value propositions that differentiate you. And before I go into this, that's why I said percentage of what? Create the new what and get your own bigger percent of value beyond the small, but you aggregate many smalls in the value you've created. Okay, so my role is as Chief Executive Officer of Open Access Data Centers, and I thought for context, and I'll take sponsors' prerogative, I'll tell you about what we do. If I can get the right. Okay. Okay. So we are part of the WIOC group, Open Access Data Centers. And very quick background. The WIOC group, WIOC, West Indian Ocean Cable Company, was created about 16 years ago. And coming to 17, you say 15 for so long, you realize it's 16, and then suddenly you realize, oh, actually it's 17. Nevertheless, it's a teenager. And it was an investor on the Easy Cable on the east coast of Africa, hence the term West Indian Ocean Cable Company. We just call it WIOC now. It's come through a tremendous journey over the last 16 years, and then as a complementary value proposition to the market, it's a hyperscale open access connectivity provider with investments not just on Easy Cable, now fiber in South Africa and long distance networks, Southern Africa fiber connectivity, subsea connectivity, capacity on WACS and SIMIWI 3, 4 piece and all of that. POPs in all major data centers across Africa, in Nigeria. Think of a data center, it's got a POP there. It's open access. Telehouse in London, Marseille, yes, and what is Digital Realty now there, and so on. Connects Africa to the world. So open access data centers was a complementary business that was started 6 years ago, 2018, really started executing 2019, and so on. And then in creating that, we had then, therefore, the WIOC group. We're actually expanding significantly WIOC in Nigeria now, with long-distance networks coming in, and that is a part of the WIOC, the digital backbone. We also, as part of Open Access Metro, is providing open access metro connectivity across Lagos right now. So if you're an ISP and you need to ride on good infrastructure, you focus on the end customers, we focus on the underlying infrastructure, and we will never, ever compete with your own client base. We stick with wholesale, and we love on all of our connectivity partners and ISPs. Within open access data centers, we have Open Access Fabric, which is a platform that allows us to have on-ramp connectivity to all the cloud providers in the world. It's a platform that allows us to open access, exist in locations. Mike, and okay, Mike is back, so maybe the screen will come back after the mic. Never, I'm showing what the shareholding is actually across Africa. It's very diversified. We've got IFC as a shareholder, as both on equity and debt. We have Africa Capital Alliance actually as a key significant shareholder, and many telcos across Africa, which is in that this diagram I've shown. You see. So we actually exist. We're African, Pan-African, and exist in Africa, connect Africa to the world. Importantly also, actually, is that WIOC is a significant consortium partner with Google's Equiano cable. We land the Equiano cable into our facility in Lagos. I'll talk about that briefly. And Meta's 2 Africa cable, both West Coast and the East Coast that they call the Gira cable. So we find it's a unique value proposition across Africa. Nobody else really does it. Okay? So that's what the network looks like that I described. I won't go into the detail here. This is a data center footprint that we have in Africa. We've got the flagship in Nigeria, which I'll then come back to focus on, because that's the context here. We have in Kinshasa last year, September, we went live. The first Tier 3 data center, ISO certified, Uptime Institute, PCI DSS, ISO 23. They didn't have seen it before. It's transformed the digital ecosystem over there. And our fabric actually can give you elements of interconnectivity exchange in countries where we find it relevant. And in South Africa, actually, we got a core one in Durban when 2 Africa cable lands into. We have Isando in Joburg. The core ones are megawatts, right? 10 megawatts, 20. And we have 2 in Cape Town. Everyone's carrier neutral and an interconnect, a carrier neutral interconnect point, and open for internet exchanges as well. Those red dots there are 30 edge data centers across South Africa, and we're doing some of that in Nigeria as well. That complements what we're doing from the open connectivity, the open access metro, and the open access DCs. That's Lagos. That's Lagos as it is now. Front office with some colo, initial colo, the black thing you have there. Huge power infrastructure that we have here. Oops. Yeah. This one. That building I just tapped is very sophisticated power on-prem power capability that has 2 lines into utility from the Jakonde location directly in that we paid for. It gives us well almost 98%-ish. Uptime, and the second one will be coming in Ajah. So once that comes in with backup, will be like Tier 4 power, and we'll be looking at IPP when these are the things it's certified to. Plenty of certifications, and all those things, right? And with WIOC, we have POPs. We connect all of the undersea cables right through to rack center, medallion, and so on. You remember the cable cuts we had, right? Last year. We then realized that actually that's the most network resilient data center around here, because we contained Nigeria and West Africa. So Nigeria was actually running through that building that you saw then. And I think compared to like Ghana and almost a lot of other countries, Nigeria weathered very, very well. Cut happened on Thursday. By Friday night, we pretty much restored Nigeria. By Sunday, all was good. By Monday, we remarkably did what would take 3 months to do, and we reprovisioned 2 terabits of capacity extra on our MVNO fiber pair. So that was an eye-opener for us. This is what it's going to look like. This one starting 18 months' time. It's piling soon. 24 megawatts in total. Going to almost 30, given what we already have in phase 1. So I just thought I'd put this one for fun. This was when the MVNO cable was coming in. And that was about 4 years ago. About 4 years ago now. Time flies. Okay, so I then thought about that, those days in egg, right? And what does it mean, and what might the business model look like? And I'll use that as sort of the base. Can you see past? Yeah, okay, good. You see, I'll go bottom up. So over there you have the MNOs. Different shapes and sizes, come in different forms. They have their own goals. They have their own infrastructure. Just as we provide open access underpinning infrastructure, just like we use another bank as an account carrier when we were doing egg. It's the same thing here, that essentially this is your account carrier. Okay? There are 2 choices for MVNOs in the business model. You might use an account carrier's billing and so on if they offer it as part of the outsourced services. In financial services, it's the same thing. You can buy credit card and be front-end seller, or it's just the account carrier. Okay? It's the same thing with the MNOs. It's funny how that business model is kind of almost exactly the same. So I'll share those perspectives here. If you want to do something, look at what OPay is doing. So I play golf. This is anecdotal evidence, okay? And it's making me scratch my head and think, oh, wow. OPay is not a bank, but it's a bank, right? So I finish with the caddy, and I say, what is your account number? So I can do a transfer. The older caddies will say First Bank, GTB, Access. The younger caddies, it just feels like maybe 80% or so will say OPay. Or they'll say the other one, Money Point, right? And so on. And you know those ones, there are many, many, many of them. There are more than us, old people, right? So they're doing small collection from them. And what they say is OPay is reliable. We trust them. It works. You do a payment. If there's a problem, they fix it. They don't have any hassles. That is owning the customer experience. So the market share comes out of customer experience. Okay? They leave the back end to other people. But you see, the back end of those banks is the ones that we want them to host in our data center. So the clever banks know I don't need to own a data center. I'll give it to another person so I can focus on my customer. The banks that struggle are the ones that still have their data centers, right? It's anecdotal evidence. Think about it. And I said to MNOs, why build a data center? You're being distracted so that these MVNOs will come and take your market because they're more agile. Because you spend 6 months thinking about expansion, capital expenditure, it goes to board. Then you spend another 6 months breaking the wall down or building a wall or whatever. Then you spend another one arguing with your connectivity providers about whether they will bring the fiber in. You know, another MNO that is, hello, hi, I need to bring 20 racks in. And I need to interconnect to your international connectivity because some of my business is in the cloud. When can I do that? Oh, okay, next month we'll be done. The other guys are still doing capital expenditure approval. You've moved. You've moved so that you can own the customer experience. And that's where the money is. And you have the capital to build towards owning that customer experience. Not building, that's also our network proposition to ISPs who want to change markets and change the world. So you see the interrelationships here, right? So on top of that, you negotiate, there's a lot going on. I mean, I don't want to simplify it, right? because that just as much as they see a market opportunity, because you buy transactions, you buy SIMs and whatever else, right? At the same time, they're worrying about whether you'll take the market away. Just reassure them, I won't be in your market. I just want your platform. I'm not worried about you, right? Core infrastructure, data center and networks, you see? Why data center and networks? The reason I said open access is, carrier neutral, is that I was going to add another diagram here, and I can speak to it. If you imagine a bubble, and you sit your infrastructure in, which means you made a phone call, your IT people have said this is what you need and stuff like that. You sit in immediately, you have access to all of the carriers in that environment. It's cross-connect, right? You're able to move. ISPs, and whatever else, okay? And you understand that the power and everything is delivered for you. That's how you get yourself initial base, agile, core infrastructure. Which is why across Africa we talk about WIRE Group, converged open digital infrastructure. It cuts across as long as you make sure it's sacrosanct that you stay open. And of course there you have your business applications billing. What I would say is this, if an MNO tries to sell you billing, right, then you think, okay, you're locked into that MNO, right? Or do your own billing. You have to take a value proposition and the pros and cons, okay? By being in a neutral environment that the MNOs are in as well. It means that the MNO is as an account carrier for you. You can have two MNOs as account carriers because you're not in their environment. So if you do your own billing and everything, be agile, go into the cloud as much as you can. Okay? Your core infrastructure is to enable you put all of those things together. Therefore, you take those choices, but make sure you're flexible. And then the key thing, more importantly, is the value-added services. So this made me go back to one time. So I worked in Switzerland with Swiss Life, okay? This is when the internet was coming, not as Swiss Life, as consulting into Swiss Life, but in Zurich. So we wanted to change the game with internet infrastructure. So they decided that it wasn't going to be just the insurance natural thing that they did, and they needed to expand and efficiently and effectively reach out to the world out there in other value-added services. So we put a box in there, just call it value-added. So we started to brainstorm to say, what is it? How do you change as an insurance company? Then I then carried the egg thing into that place. One thing we used to have at Egg Bank was you have channels. Customers have to be able to dance across channels, right? To consume your value-added services. Lots of and a single view of a customer, and you love on them, you know everything about them, you own the customer, you own the eyeballs, right? Let that be the basis of the way you set what your value-added services is. And it transformed an insurance company from an old, tired, into a pretty vibrant one that now have roots to eyeballs in the market that will sell the small, you aggregate the small bit. Right? Before you know it, when you own the eyeballs, own the customer experience, you aggregate how you make money. But because you have efficient infrastructure in the background that is agile, right? You're able to move very, very quickly. That's why OPay seems to be gathering the heart and minds of these youngsters. They're doing something that's focusing on the customer, and they're not worrying about back-end infrastructure. Any side-end infrastructure, because you need to do your own sort of integrations. That's why you're not buying 20 racks. You're probably doing 4, 5, or 3, or whatever it is, right? Is on the side, and the core is provided elsewhere. This is where the market is. You've made everything else agile, okay? And then, of course, everything else supports your business model. I've got here regulatory key part. I was just talking somewhere about governance, corporate governance, and there was something about authentic regulatory relationship management. That's a very, very important piece on the side, but it helps you on the core. And if you can do that, I see some MNOs are here, right? I think, or ex-MNOs, I'm seeing some. If you can do that better than these guys, because you now have multiple regulatory bodies that touch you. It'll be around, who knows, insurance. It could be around, pay small insurance. Around, you now have a route to the customer's eyeballs, right? It could be banking. You might not even call it banking. It could be anything else. So that is, figure out your authentic relationship management. Customer experience, customer acquisition, retention, operational excellence, and you've got the key business support and admin things, HR and all of those things. So I've used this as a sort of template to describe the framework for MVNOs and where the real value is. So your market share is not chasing about them. They've got the might to crush you. Just be humble. Collect the platform. Your market share is there at the top. But you need efficient bottom and side here to gather the money at the top. And MVNOs will be MVNOs. Virgin Mobile is an MVNO, right? And it comes up with lots of different brand-led. I should have put actually branding. Branding is another key thing. Know your market, get into your market, and get into the rhythm of your market's lives. How do you get into the rhythm of your customer's life? Customer excellence, agility. That's what will get you there. And then some critical success factors. I've talked about the strategic MNO partnerships, core infrastructure, agility, market segmentation on your niche focuses, know your clients, get into the rhythm of their lives, value-added services, differentiation, pricing strategy. Don't think of pricing as a price of this. Think of the price of this in the value of that, right? And then customer experience. If you drive everything through customer experience, you'll be surprised. At Egg Bank, we had a customer experience director. One of those days, it was one of the first ones. So he came to me and said, "Today, what does it really mean?" And we said, okay, let's figure out what it means. You know what? It was very, very profound. Because it came down to thinking about, when a customer presses this click, what does it mean? Think about it. Agility and innovation. Thank you very much.
Of applause again for Dr. Thank you so much. He made that emphasis on that value. Oh, sorry, I'm very tall. Please pardon me. He made a lot of emphasis on the agility and, of course, the value-added service. And you will know how that's meant to him. He had to even touch the screen so that everybody will see that that is where the real thing is happening. And honestly, about the OPA, he had said absolutely the correct thing or the most absolute, because you see everybody using all of these services. This is what has happened. They have been won. In fact, I had a case study recently that we're doing about Money Point and how were they able to change the agents banking, and that comes to mind. Everybody's talking about AI agents now, but really sachets market, value-added service, not now putting their own time and resource on what really matters to them. They leave the core infrastructure, the data center, and all of that to others to do. Thank you so much, Dr. Coker, for that amazing presentation. Now we'll go to the next presentation, still on global overview, and that's no other than Amish White, who is the CEO of Mobilize, and he will be speaking on unlocking the new market opportunities in Nigeria and globally too. So let's make welcome, and we'll be doing this online, Amish White. Thank you. Please clap for me.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ish White, CEO of UK. I'm thrilled to be here today at the MVNO 2025 conference to talk about the future of the MVNO sector. The space that is opening up new horizons for security, inclusion, and innovation. I'm truly humbled by the depth of knowledge, expertise, and experience we have today. So I'm sure many of you here don't know who Mobilise is, so to give a brief background, Mobilise UK is an MVNE of 70 plus telcos, including MVNOs, launched service in more than 15 countries. Some background of Mobilise's journey in Nigeria. Mobilise UK's journey in Nigeria began approximately 6 years ago with our local partners and an attempt to obtain an Indian license and offer innovative telecoms services into the vibrant Nigerian market.
Okay.
Today, Mobilise UK is a stakeholder in Mobilise Communication,
Hamish, can you hear
which
me?
obtained a Tier 5 MVNE license from the NCC in 2023.
Hamish, can you hear me?
So over the next few minutes, I'll be sharing strategies and insights from our experience in other markets to hopefully help us move MVNOs from policy to performance, from potential to delivery. This is more than a presentation, it's a call to action. We're standing at the gateway of a new phase in Nigerian telecoms. The MVNO licenses recently granted are not just business enablers, they're system changes. They represent our opportunity to create a more competitive, inclusive, and digitally empowered nation. Nigeria has well over 200 million subscribers, one of the largest telecom markets in the world. It's a vibrant, mobile-first country where connectivity is central to daily life. The opportunity isn't emerging, it's arrived. MVNOs are the mechanism to unlock it. Until now, this market has been dominated by a few key mobile players, but that's changing. Nigeria is embracing MVNOs, unlocking one of the world's most dynamic but underserved mobile markets. And with the right approach, we can drive both innovation and inclusion. At Mobilise, we believe that every market, especially one with Nigeria's scale and energy, deserves the power of choice. MVNOs offer that. They drive innovation, improve service, and respond to local needs. This isn't just telecom, it's transformation. Nigeria isn't just ready, it's eager. The hunger for better digital services, better value, and better experiences is everywhere. This isn't about catching up, it's about leaping ahead. This is where convergence becomes a game changer. MVNOs in Nigeria won't just offer SIMs, they'll bundle telecom with mobile wallets, on-demand content, even smart tech integrations. The next generation MVNO is a digital lifestyle platform. So, why Nigeria? Because the fundamentals are strong. Population size, digital demand, mobile dependency, and now regulatory readiness. The market is moving and fast. The telecom sector already contributes nearly 11% to Nigeria's GDP. It's not a side sector, it's core to the economy. But we've only scratched the surface of what's possible when we fully unlock mobile value chains. This is where the rubber meets the road. 43 MVNO licenses. That's not a prediction, that's policy in motion. Now it's up to us as industry leaders to ensure these licenses deliver value and not just volume. Smartphone penetration in Nigeria is growing fast, 32% today, on track to hit 47% by 2030. This is a critical metric. Why? Because smartphones aren't just communication devices, they're the gateway to financial inclusion, entertainment, learning, and healthcare. MVNOs must optimize for a smartphone-first audience that deliver services that live within that ecosystem. Look at this age profile. 42 million young Nigerians between the age of 15 and 24, and another 64 million aged 25 to 39. That's over 100 million people in their most connected, most data-hungry years. This is the most digitally capable and influential generation Nigeria has ever had, and they're waiting for telco brands that speak their language. 40 million subscribers move annually. That's your churn signal. Customers aren't loyal because they haven't found the right fit. MVNOs that offer more flexible, personalised and affordable plans can finally break that cycle. The opportunity isn't just acquisition, it's to be the brand people actually stay with. This is about more than connectivity. The digital economy is transforming how people work, learn, pay and live. Telcos are no longer just infrastructure providers, they're becoming service orchestrators. MVNOs are perfectly positioned to plug into that shift and offer more than minutes and megabytes. Digital growth is inclusive. The chart here highlights sectors like education, energy, finance and health, all of which can be enhanced through mobile services. MVNOs that think beyond telecom and align with this digital ecosystem can unlock not just profit, but social value too. In 2016, the digital economy already represented 15.5% of global GDP. That's $11.5 trillion. Today, that number is even higher. Nations and businesses that fail to keep pace with this transformation risk being left behind. Nigeria has a chance to leap forward, and MVNOs can be the catalysts. The digital economy is projected to reach 25% of global GDP in less than a decade. That's not a trend, it's a tidal wave. And while most developed markets are preparing for it, emerging markets have the chance to leapfrog directly into this next phase, if the infrastructure and services evolve fast enough, that is. Here's the challenge. Not all countries are capturing their fair share of digital boom. Why? Lack of inclusion, weak digital infrastructure, and slow service innovation. MVNOs can be part of the solution, bringing digital services to millions who are underserved today. But connectivity isn't just about convenience, it's about productivity, income, and empowerment. In Nigeria, increasing teledensity by just 1% could contribute up to 0.13% GDP growth, as identified by the ITU. That's real economic impact. Every additional SIM card, every new mobile user, it all matters. The correlation is proven. Invest in digital infrastructure and you boost GDP. Build out the digital ecosystem, education platforms, fintech access, content bundles, and the economy grows with it. MVNOs have a unique opportunity to lead this shift, especially in hard-to-reach communities. When we talk about telecom, we're not just talking about infrastructure or GDP, we're talking about how people access health services, how kids learn remotely, how entrepreneurs sell online. Telecom is the baseline for a connected life. And when access improves, so does everything else, from healthcare to agriculture to emergency response. One of the most transformative decisions by the NCC is the introduction of the Tier 5 MVNE license. It levels the playing field. It enables more innovation, particularly in the radio infrastructure part of the network, and it allows new players to serve underserved regions without the burden of heavy countrywide network investment. This is policy unlocking progress. So let's take a candid look at both sides of the coin, the challenges that MVNOs will face and the major opportunities they can seize, because being clear-eyed about this is the first step to building resilient business models. Let's start with the challenges. These aren't roadblocks, they're a design constraint. And if we understand them, we can build around them. As we've heard from many other speakers today, rural Nigeria remains one of the most underserved regions when it comes to telecom. Limited infrastructure, inconsistent power supply and poor last mile connectivity make rollouts tough, but not impossible. MVNOs can address this through hybrid models, partnership with telcos, towercos, or shared infrastructure initiatives. Customer churn in Nigeria is massive, over 40 million subscriber movements per year. That's a trust issue. It's also a price sensitivity issue. MVNOs need to tackle affordability head on with low commitment prepaid plans, loyalty features and transparency in billing. Nigeria's telecom market is fiercely competitive and revenue per user is low. So how do MVNOs win? By being lean, focused and customer obsessed. Low ARPU doesn't mean low opportunity. It means you have to deliver high perceived value at a very efficient cost base. Now to the upside. Nigeria has some of the strongest fundamentals for MVNO success anywhere in the world, and here's why. Young Nigerians are hyper-connected, digitally savvy, and constantly online. MVNOs that build plans around their lifestyles, for example, night data, streaming bundles, mobile payments, will earn loyalty. Flexibility and relevance are the keys here. There is an untapped market waiting in rural areas. What they need isn't complicated, it's access, affordability, and simplicity. MVNOs can design plans that work around low-income, high-volume scenarios with options like community bundles, for example, or shared family data pools. Here's where MVNOs can really shift the dial by embedding financial services into telecoms offerings. Imagine topping up airtime and getting microloans, paying bills through your MVNO wallet, or enabling peer-to-peer transfers over USSD. This is more than a value add, it's a market unlocker. Yes, Nigeria's telecom space is competitive, but that's not a red flag, it's a blueprint. MVNOs often succeed in hyper-competitive markets by narrowing their focus and hyper-personalizing their service. Don't aim to be everything for everyone, be everything for someone. Globally, we've seen that crowded markets are where MVNOs thrive. Why is that? Because they can be faster, leaner, and more innovative than the incumbents. Differentiation is not a luxury, it's your growth engine. Here you can see it visually. MVNOs in Europe command up to 10% on average market share, depending on the market. And the same can happen here in Nigeria. The churn rates in Nigeria are already high. That tells us people are willing to switch. All they need is a better reason to stay with a new brand. So to wrap up this section, yes, there are challenges, but they're paired with major, clear and addressable opportunities. With the right models and partners, Nigeria can become one of the most successful MVNO stories globally. So I wanted to just take a closer look at the specific dynamics shaping Nigeria's MVNO opportunity from our perspective and our analysis, and breaking that down into a SWOT framework. For us, this helps clarify exactly where MVNOs can play to their strengths, mitigate risk, and identify where the real growth lies. So from our view, Nigeria has three key strengths. First, a large and youthful population, one of the youngest in the world. Second, massive demand for affordable mobile services. And third, 43 MVNO licenses already approved. I think it's somewhere around 43. The regulatory foundation is set, the demand is there, and the demographic engine is running. But we must also be realistic. The weaknesses include high churn rates, 40 million movements a year, low ARPU, and persistent infrastructure challenges, especially outside major cities. These are not insurmountable problems, but they require creative business models and lean operations. The upside is huge. Smartphone adoption is expected to rise from 32% to 47% by 2030. Rural connectivity remains largely untapped, and digital financial services are becoming more widespread. MVNOs that embed fintech, like mobile wallets and microloans, can differentiate immediately. Lastly, the threats. Multiple MVNOs entering the market, inflation and fluctuating income affecting consumer spending, and regulatory complexity. But these are manageable if your model is lean, your partnerships are strong, and your offering is built around clear user needs. So with the local SWOT in mind, I thought to turn to some global best practices that we've witnessed. And what can we learn from markets where MVNOs have just not just survived, but thrived? What strategic choices did they make that Nigerian operators can adapt and apply? Across the most successful MVNOs, we see three clear patterns. One is customer segmentation. Two is a digital-first operating model. And three, strategic partnerships that go beyond connectivity into payments, content, devices, and support. It's worth repeating because this isn't just theory, it's what works. So find a segment that's underserved, deliver a fully digital experience, onboarding to care, and partner to expand your value beyond just data and voice. This matrix here shows different MVNOs, shows that different MVNOs can position based on focus and audience. For example, a Millennium MVNO focused on social content and flexible billing, or an IoT MVNO that works with logistics companies. Not every MVNO needs to go broad. In fact, the most successful ones start narrow and go deep and in harmony with their MNO partner. The key is to choose your space and own it. Here are 5 standout MVNO models from around the world. These brands don't just compete, they redefine what an MVNO can be. From mobile wallets to digital ecosystems, each one solved a unique problem with precision and focus. So let's quickly unpack them. Digi in Malaysia successfully integrated mobile wallets and targeted underserved populations. They combined telecom with mobile banking services, giving users access to not just minutes and data, but to savings, insurance, and bill payments. It's a great example of cross-sector value creation. Airtel as a telco, Money is one of Africa's most successful fintech stories, as we all know. The MVNO model embedded mobile money as the core product, not just as an add-on. This is especially powerful in low-income and rural regions where bank branches are far, but more phones are near. VOO in Belgium took a different approach. They bundled telecom with TV, broadband, and OTT content, creating a full digital lifestyle service. This bundling reduced churn and increased ARPU. MVNOs in Nigeria could look at bundling with local content or education platforms in a similar way. Mint Mobile in the US disrupted the market with a fully digital, no-frills, direct-to-consumer model, no stores, no contracts, and super simple prepaid data plans. Their online-only strategy reduced costs, and they passed those savings on to the customer. Geo, albeit of course not an MVNO, is a really nice use case. Their model in India was possibly the boldest. It didn't just launch a mobile service, it launched an ecosystem, data, devices, content, cloud, even e-commerce. Nigeria's version of this might look different, but the principle is the same. Build an ecosystem, not just a network. So this table summarizes what each of these brands focused on, both in terms of strategic pillars and their primary audience. Whether it's affordability, convenience, lifestyle, or ecosystem thinking, they all succeeded by solving real user problems. And that needs to be our North Star. So what should an MVNO in Nigeria focus on? Let's explore the strategic pillars that will matter most in this market from our perspective, from platform choice to customer engagement and really everything in between. 4 themes really stand out: digital enablement using modern tech stacks, affordability, price-sensitive plans that will still deliver value, customer-centric design from onboarding and support, and partnerships with fintechs, content providers, health tech, and more. These aren't buzzwords, they're success factors. If you get these 4 things right, you can build an MVNO that grows fast, retains users, and makes an impact across Nigeria's economic and digital fabric. So in terms of technical innovations, let's dive into the technologies that make the MVNO model truly disruptive in today's market, because it's not just about what you offer, but how you deliver it. And to talk about our own capabilities as a use case and at the expense of sounding like a salesman, at Mobilize we've developed a full service digital enablement platform, everything from onboarding and billing to customer care and analytics. Of course, there's many telco providers, software providers in the market that can deliver similar capabilities. But our platform is cloud native, modular, and scalable. This is not a one-size-fits-all product. It's a toolkit for MVNOs who want to move fast and operate smart. From cloud-based MVNOs that cut deployment time to eSIMs that enable instant activation, these are the tools of the modern MVNO. Add in real-time analytics, automated customer service, and integrated payment platforms, and you have the basis for a lean, intelligent operation that's ready to scale. So let me now just quickly reintroduce Mobilize and our Nigerian business unit, Mobilize Communications, not just as a technology provider, but as a strategic partner. We're here to help MVNOs go to market faster, smarter, with regulatory alignment. We've supported MVNOs in the UK, Europe, LATAM, and now Africa. Our clients trust us to deliver not only platforms, but business models We bring global experience, but we execute locally with Nigerian market realities in mind. Digital transformation isn't just about tech, it's about mindset. Mobilise helps our partners rethink everything from customer journey to revenue streams. We're as focused on strategy as we are on your systems. We believe in building local, that's why we're forming strategic partnerships with Nigerian fintechs, infrastructure players and entrepreneurs. This is not an export, it's a co-creation effort. Success in Nigeria's MVNO market will not be achieved alone. It will take collaboration between MVNOs, MNOs, regulators, investors and technology providers. So let's align our strengths and move forward as an ecosystem. The opportunity is too big, too urgent and too impactful to tackle in silos. We must act together, strategically and inclusively to shape the market that delivers on both economic and human potential. MNOs need MVNOs for segmentation and reach. MVNOs need MNOs for scale. Tech providers like Mobilise bring the agility and infrastructure to make it happen. It's not a zero-sum game, it's a value chain. The next chapter of Nigeria's telecom story is waiting to be written, and I'm hopeful that we can write it together, a story that's inclusive, competitive and digitally driven. Thank you everyone for your time, energy and your attention. For Mobilise, we really are committed and excited by the opportunity MVNO can present to consumers, stakeholders and the Nigerian telecoms market as a whole. Today I'm really looking forward to having some real conversations about what it's going to take to make MVNOs a success story in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amish White, for that amazing presentation and really opening our eyes to other things around the numbers, and that's really great. I think from all the keynotes that we've had today is no doubt that some things have come again and that every speaker had tried to just emphasize on. If there is anything I've heard severally today is agility. I don't know if anybody agrees with me. Another we've had today is customer engagement, knowing the market nuances, spotting the opportunities and coming to really deal where it matters, while we're not ignoring that there are likely the legacy infrastructure issues, which we also have to collaboratively come together to deal with. And the NCC in our own terrain is not excluded from this, because they also have to help with the enablement. I just want to quickly summarize some of these things while we prepare to go to the panel session, and I really believe it's going to be a great one. And to moderate that panel session is Dr. Coker. But let me just quickly, based on some of the things I've jotted. I noticed most of us were taking pictures. I didn't take pictures, but I love to write. So agility, value-added service, some of the challenges that we should see, even as Amish White tried to give us the SWOT analysis. Collaboration is the secret sauce, and we cannot shy away from this. MNOs have to collaborate with the MVNOs. MVNOs also have to go out and try to explore the other businesses in the verticals so that they are able to make appropriate impact. The regulatory readiness, if we have over 40 MVNOs that are licensed, that shows that we're really starting something. And another thing that we also have to look at and not ignore is the young population of the Nigerian as a state or as a country, because they are the ones that want all this hyper-personalization, hyper-realism and all of that. So it's also a market we should look at, while we're not ignoring the people in the rural, underserved, unreached people also need all of this, and it can also help us to improve on digital lifestyle. So all of this, and it really made mention of something that caught my attention. It's a lot about partnering with caching businesses or people that have local content, and that will also help to also improve how we interact with all of this content. Dr. Kuka mentioned something about when there was the submarine court and how we all still came back up. But another thing comes to mind. What if we had our own resources locally? Okay, we leverage on all of these submarine cables, but we also have to do a lot of things in-house. And I think our ISP and AFIX and all of that are also looking at how to grow all of this aspect. Platform choices and enablement are all of the things we have had from the keynote addresses. And I would just want to join us to give a round of applause to all our speakers again. Please don't miss your clap. Let's do it generously. Thank you so much. So I think we're bringing the chairs for the panel session. You're taking this out, right? Okay, so let me just quickly tell us the people that will be on the panel so that it will excite us the more to just listen to this. Amish White, he just finished speaking with us as the CEO of Mobilize. Mr. Ayo Oladejo, Managing Partner, Digit Practice, is the one that gave us the second keynote. Then we have Mr. Teniola Stoffman, the CEO of Libora Nigeria. We have Mr. Olushola Teniola, the Director Strategic Business Initiative at IPNS. We have Mr. Satya Mekala, who is the CEO of Wireless Technology Labs. We all know Wireless Technology Labs is doing something with Vital Wireless for the MVNO. And we have Mr. Tony Izuagbe, who is the President of Association of Telecoms Company of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's get ready for our panel session. Clap for me as I won't leave. Dr. Kuka, tell them to clap for me so that I can. Okay.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. So I'd like to invite the panelists that we have here. Well, online, I think Hamish White is online. And also then Ayo Oladejo, Managing Partner, Digit Practice. He was online as well. Okay, excellent. And then Taniola Stoffman, CEO Libara Nigeria. Excellent, welcome. Nice to meet you. Olushola Teniola, Director Strategic Business Initiatives at IPNX. And Satya Makela, CEO Wireless Technology Labs. He's also online. Okay, so I guess it's the local people here. Then, okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, or lady and gentlemen. Okay, Nikki. Tony Izuagbe Emoekpere, President of the Associations of Telecoms Companies of Nigeria. Yes, let's do it all on one side. You know, you see, it's the Lord works in mysterious ways. So you'll never forget that Tony was called onto the platform. So maybe I was driven by the Spirit. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. One of the key things, we've gone through quite a lot around what the market should do. And one question on the panel really is, what's the market readiness? The MVNOs, their readiness to be in the market. Who's most ready? Where do you see this the status? Let me start off actually by asking, because you've got something similar actually in the business model. So I'll start off by asking Hamish, if you could give a viewpoint, please. Pardon me, just 1 second, Hamish, I'll come back to you. Let me ask Teniola Stoffman to give us a view, because you've been through some of this journey before, actually, so you're probably well placed to give a view.
Right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's been, interesting listening to all the keynote speakers, and like the lady earlier mentioned, I also had to take notes. Thanks to everybody that has been speaking so far. So, is the market ready for MVNO? The answer is yes. And just like I think Hamish mentioned, you said the churn rates, it just tells you that people are asking for more. The appetite is very different. You remember when USSD started in Nigeria, it looked as if it wasn't going to work when GT Bank started the 737. And as soon as it kicked off, you see how every other bank followed suit. So the same pattern we see with even the fintechs of this world. You will know that Nigeria has appetite for innovation. They have appetite for new things. And if you test the market as we have been testing it, you'll know that, yes, MVNO is ready. Are the licensees also, license owners also ready? I want to believe so, because it's been a while that this license has been given to each party. So the market is very, very thirsty for this to happen. The information is right there, and thanks to all the information that we've also heard this morning, we are looking at starting as fast as possible, except for the concerns that we are currently facing, which I think all of us here know about.
So what are those concerns? For those of us that might not
very
know.
Good question again. So we are well aware of the initial concern, which was a tariff. Subsequent to getting the license, the telcos will come back and tell you, we need to clear the tariff first because that's a priority for us. If we get it, then we can have a sit down with you as an MVNO. I represent Libera, for instance. Libera Network has wide experience across different countries. So you will expect that kind of information would be easy to have that kind of conversation with the MNOs. But tariff was a front burner. And now that tariff is out of the way, what will then be the excuse? And I think that's where we're having that conversation now to say, okay, the concern, which was a tariff floor price, has now been moved out of the way. Can we now have serious conversation as to how soon we can, go live? Because I think outside of that, we're actually ready to go live.
Okay. And Tony, do you think tariffs should be regulated? Either the front end, back end, in an open, competitive market of quite diverse value propositions and so on. What price do you regulate? What tariff do you regulate?
Definitely, tariff should not be regulated. Definitely, if we had our choice, obviously, we say the market should decide what tariffs they will pay. I mean, it's a market. Healthy competition drives innovation and drives pricing. But where we are is where we are, and we have to deal with it as such. I think one of the issues that had been raised was prior to now was actually the independence of the regulator, because the regulator should not be so stifled. There are clauses already in the Act that allows for pricing to be varied according to the market forces and things of that nature. So they are there, but it's just the implementation. But I wanted to just draw on what you mentioned. And I think what I still see from MVNOs, the value proposition, and I think it speaks to what you said, Dr. Koka, when you were making your... if you have a very, very viable value proposition, I don't think an MNO will be, will not be really open. Fine, they might. There are issues that they might want to steal your idea, for example, but there should be some value you are bringing onto the table. I think, and has been said even from various speakers that trying to compete with the MNOs service for service. You can't do that. I will also suggest to some of the MVNOs to start. There are ways to start without even having a stack. You sensitize the market of what you want to provide. You do some surveys. You do some ads. There are things you can do to drum up that business. And once you start and there's an interest, then there will be a compulsion to move that needle forward. But the sitting down attitude and waiting for something to move in that space is not really going to happen. The MNOs, and there are some other challenges we're not also talking about. We're talking about quality of service as well. If the quality of service is a challenge, what value proposition are you bringing to the table? The MNOs are battling with quality of service, trying to ensure their service is up and running. The churn rate is not actually, because all the MNOs are basically providing the same services. There's no differentiation. So what is the churn coming from? The churn is coming from quality of service. Mm-hmm. If I'm in my house and the service drops, I need to get another network. So what is the differentiation the MVNOs are bringing to the table? I think that should be the discussion we should be having.
Well, you see, if you're in your house and you have a virtual network that can give you service for whichever works in the back end, that might be a value proposition, which means you have higher availability, maybe something the MVNOs can do. Hey, Michelle, looking outside in, you look like you wanted to add something.
Well, you see, you're still taking market share from the MNO.
Yes, and that's,
So they won't. So you need to really differentiate.
Exactly. So it depends on which market you're taking from. Because if you take their services, you're adding to their market share, and you use that as a base to go and do something else. Hamish, what's your view on that outside in those things around sort of readiness, market piece, and what we've now considered here around the MVNO opportunity?
Sure, thank you. And we speak of the fantastic presentations and contribution. As I mentioned during my presentation, Mobiliser's journey started 6 years ago when to obtain an MVNO license in Nigeria. It was a long time ago, and it was, I think, maybe the second attempt from the NCC to introduce MVNO licenses, and then I think there was 2 more subsequent to that. So it's been a long journey, and we're 100% committed to reaching our goal of starting offering services in the country. I think there's been a lot of challenges. I think along the way, myself personally and Mobiliser as a company, we've helped a lot of regulators and MVNOs to start the MVNO business model in the country, the Middle East, for example, in certain parts of Europe as well. And the journey has always been very similar in that there's resistance, understandably, from MNOs about the introduction of MVNOs because it represents a threat and the cannibalization risk. The market becomes more familiar with the MVNO model, when the MVNO model gets introduced, most MNOs start to realize that there's a real opportunity there to create service differentiation via MVNO partners and generate wholesale revenues. So I think the challenges are definitely helping MNOs to understand that this is a viable business model. And I think most of the MVNOs that are present in the market today have been doing their best to do that. From an MVNO perspective, I know that there's a lot of investment going into getting platforms ready, to getting teams ready, to preparing for launch. Whilst we wait for some of these outcomes with MNO conversations to complete, there is some level of value degradation because there's money that's being spent that's not being realised, in terms of investment that's being spent that's not realising returns. But I'm 100% certain that we will overcome these obstacles. I've seen exactly the same thing play out in other markets. Not to in any way underestimate the challenges in the Nigerian market, particularly with things like inflation. and then very real concerns that MNOs have about cost of running their networks. But I'm sure we'll get there. And will it be 43 MVNOs or will it be a subset? I think time will tell. But certainly, I feel like we're getting there. I think we're almost there. But as very rightly mentioned, differentiation is key. As I mentioned in my presentation, a lot of markets that have started with MVNOs, there's been similar skepticism about the success that MVNOs can have in a market because of existing competition or quality of service, but in all of those markets also over time, as MVNOs start to mature in their understanding of the business dynamics and opportunity, they've succeeded as well, and added value for the MNO partners too.
Thanks. Abayomi, you mentioned some things in your presentation with the MVNOs. So there's some things that have been mentioned here, quality of service, challenges, innovation might get around that. Where do you think we are, the opportunities with the MVNOs in the market, innovation, and the readiness for the market to do that? Abayomi.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that was
Okay, so I'll go through the question again. Picking on the themes from your presentation and related to the market and the MVNOs, do you think, where do you see the market now with innovation being able to overcome some of those, well, perhaps opportunities actually, challenges can become opportunities if you innovate?
Yeah, of course. I think this need to meet. Okay, good. All right. Yeah. So I believe there are many opportunities, especially if the regulators and the MNOs come to the party, because there's the concept of anchor product. You are an MVNO because you have some mobile product, and unfortunately you can't sell what you don't have. So if you don't have the capacity to sell, it's tough for the MVNOs to even start, because that is the entry point. Now, beyond that, there are so many wonderful opportunities if the capacity issues and other regulatory issues are resolved, the wholesale market pricing and all that. One of them, I believe, is which I mentioned earlier during my presentation, is the Swedish example of Telmes. This guy is focused solely on the SMB market. So you can actually get a PABS product in a few minutes. Your call center is up and running, and that's what they focused on. Of course, they sell voice, data, and everything to the enterprise customers, but that differentiation really help them. And again, when it comes to the concept of enterprise architecture, I mentioned earlier the issue of legacy issues that the big MNOs have. So if I want to come into the market, to do, let's say, a USSD integration or something that has to do with the mobile layer, and I'm a digital player, I would rather go to an MVNO that can get me up and running in 1 week, than go to an MNO that will, first of all, go to a committee to say, is this feasible? A business case that will take 6 months. So I also mentioned an example of a South African MVNO that is now the preferred partner for roaming partners coming in to South Africa. That opportunity still exists. You go to an MVNO with a very good, nimble digital architecture and move that project quicker. So as I said, if those foundational issues are resolved, there are so many interesting opportunities that can come true for MVNOs. I will mention one more thing. If I have the opportunity of running an MVNO in Nigeria, the kind of niche product that I will be focusing on are things that that are scarce. So, for instance, if the word of the day can come from the GO of a big church and it's only through my platform, maybe all members of the church will most likely want to buy my SIM card. So those are the kind of issues that we should be looking at, rather than just trying to sell airtime and data alone. Yeah, thank you.
Any budding MVNO shareholders in the house looking for a CEO to run. There we go. And the innovation, not challenges. I like that focus on those challenges to innovation. Old days, we used to call it legacy wrapper. You wrap out the legacy, build on it with new stuff, innovate beyond the people that have to worry about it. So let's go to regulation. Olushola, you've been through a journey in many different ways with regulators, chairman of ATCON. Who regulates MVNOs? If we look at the range of value-added services, maybe financial services, it might be telco. It might actually not be telco because it's just a telco behind it. Who regulates the MVNO? Who should regulate the MVNO? And how's that playing out?
Thanks for that. Just before I answer your question, we spoke about differentiation. I wanted to say something. We already have a vast ecosystem in Nigeria. And that's not regulated. Second, we have an ISP ecosystem that is somewhat regulated. MVNO is only different from VAS and ISPs. In fact, the argument is that if you have an ISP, you will cross-sell your services to the customer base. If you're coming in raw and naked, no customer base, then you're out to the elements. Then you have more than just NCC who will regulate you. You have FCCPC. You will have the data, I think the data protection SAR, yes. my big brother, Dr. Ola Vincent Ola Tunji. He is Ola Tunji.
Yes, Ola Tunji, yes.
And then you'll have others. So Nigeria is a more complex market now. The early days, it was just NCC. So if you had the MVNO coming in around 2003, 2004, Virgin Mobile was thinking of coming in, then it would just be NCC because it was voice. Now we have data, and data is a bit more peculiar. So you're dealing with a multi-layered, multi-regulatory environment. But having said that, you can self-regulate as well. I mean, it's a commercial agreement between you and the MNOs, and then anyone who's been in telco for the period I've been in, you never cannibalize the gorilla in the room. You don't do it. So if you are going to get an MVNO license, or if you have one and you want to launch, stay away from offering virtual network services on an upper rate that's just about $3 per month. An MNO can easily kill you. They can just offer it for nothing and then bundle it with fintech services and other services.
A bit like happened with Freddie Laker.
Or examples are out there in the UK as well. I won't mention names. So we don't have an infrastructure environment similar to the UK or the northern or the global north. So the MVNOs were practically formed by NCC to solve a problem. And what is that problem? The problem is that we have a digital divide. We have a rural area where there are some, I know that some of our brothers are trying to put in infrastructure there, and it's very difficult. We have people who have never held a 2G device, let alone a 3G, and I saw 4G there. And they number about 30 million or 20 million, depends on the cluster gaps that the USPF has shared with us. That's still a problem, and that's what the MVNOs need to solve. So the dynamics that you have is that the class 5 or the tier 5 that they created should put in the infrastructure and then allow those who want to be virtual as they go into tier 1 to really be virtual. And in Nigeria, nothing's really virtual. As we've found out in the VAS arena and the ISP arena, you have to do some investments in CapEx. The reality is that we're not Belgium, we are not the UK, where we have an incumbent operator that has copper lines that are now going to fiber. We're trying to leapfrog that. And there's a cost to that, even in the data center space. Yeah? So the regulators is going to be multifaceted. Yes. I can't give you all the names, but the shopping list is more than one. Thank you.
Excellent. So yeah, it's a I guess homogeneous federated regulation environment. Teniola, you looked like you wanted to add something.
I just wanted to say something that I think the conception of assuming that MVNOs will help the uncovered areas needs to be corrected, because MVNOs are leveraging on the coverage areas of the MNOs. Yes, we can enhance it. I mean, maybe the tier 5s can decide to build base stations, but that's a lot of capital that a tier 5 will not think about just yet. So that being said, the work is to, lack of a better word, disrupt what is existing.
Yeah.
There isn't, and I think Hamish said it earlier, it's not about competition, but more about collaboration. And when you look at the digital space and the high rate of consumption of data, then you know it's very important to have that disruption happen, because it's going to bring quality of service. And I think that's most especially what the MVNOs will be doing, because then the MNOs can then focus on widening the coverage. At the moment, we have a usage gap of 9x to a coverage gap. So if the MNOs can focus on widening the coverage, then there will be quality of service as it should be. I just wanted to put that as well. And sorry, to just buttress on the point of NCC also laying frameworks. So there is a framework already that allows that kind of collaboration, unlike what we have in South Africa, which is a retail minus system. What NCC did here is to allow the kind of framework that both the MNO and the MVNO can jump on and work with. And I think that is sustainable compared to the retail miners.
Okay, maybe frameworks, not subsidy, just put that, frameworks that drive the right behavior, right? To encourage extending infrastructure to the ones where initially the business case might not be right. But when I was CIO of the bank, I'll say, if you want my lucrative business in Lagos and in Port Harcourt, you'll get it if you take me to Damaturu. And you find a way to take me to Damaturu and give a certain level of performance, and then we can leverage it, and that might be something possible. Satya, coming to you, we've talked about the MVNO market readiness. We've actually talked about aspects of technology leverage. You know, how do you see this going outside in on some of the opportunities or challenges that we turn into opportunities, and that sort of regulatory framework that works, that might have worked elsewhere from your experience? So you're on mute, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted and I was talking already. Good afternoon, everyone. I think I'm more Nigerian than anyone else there. You can say every month I'm there. So just let me give a little introduction of me, because everyone knows me there. But WTL is a vendor. We supply technology. We supply technology to all the MVNOs, even rural operators. That's what we do in Nigeria, and we are market leaders in particular technology there. So whatever I give you, let me give you some background from a vendor perspective, or as an industry insider there. So the regulation in Nigeria was very innovative. They have given a proper 43 licenses, and they tiered them into several tiers. That is good for a 200 million subscriber market, let us say that. Then you have a challenge coming up here, is that all the opportunities we are talking, the innovations and everything, they will work only where there is a network. We have to understand that. So that means all what we are talking about, rural or unconnected population, is not going to happen in MVNO market until there is a substantial investment. Like someone said, there is a regulation to connect the unconnected in Nigeria. And there are operators who are absolutely interested to collaborate or cooperate with MVNOs to build base stations in unconnected market, like MTN, Airtel. They are interested. They want to do that. And there are more opportunities even to do 4G densification, because as Tenny was telling, data is important and demand is more than what we have on the ground. So that is where also MVNOs from tier 4 and tier 5 can cooperate with MNOs. And these commercial agreements can be possible because they're already done and they're working in the market. not very well, but they're working. Yeah. So regulation side, the problem today in the market, why MVNO is not launching is more important than all the innovations we are talking about. It has been long now. We are there for 1.5 years or more trying to do this. Yeah. And even as we say, Tenny explained the challenge that she still has nothing in her hands to launch, and she's ready to launch. Same with probably Hamish, and same with a few of our clients there where we already supplied the equipment and they're waiting. Yeah. So that is the challenge we have. The challenge is how an operator will share his revenue with an MVNO in a $1.50 ARPU market. So that is the problem. So I would say still the market is there. I'm not saying no to that. I would actually ask MVNOs and MNOs to move past that $1.50 argument. No one is going to become rich with that. But somehow make an agreement here, make peace, and try to make your money where you said the innovation is there, where I'm going to make my money. At present, we are stuck at $1.50 and ready to invest $10 million each. So I believe, I'm just trying to openly talk, not to antagonize anyone, please. But we are stuck here a bit at $1.50 ARPU and trying to share it. So if we can move past that particular thing and make an agreement between three parties, let us say because MNO, MVNO and regulator, somehow regulator has to approve whatever agreement is going to happen, and that is what is said. So we have to involve them as. So if there is a peace between all the parties about this $1.50, the market is there. We can make whatever the innovations and extra revenues, putting your hand into the pockets of the end customers and take more money out of them. And that is possible only if we cross this one line we have in our hand. Thank you.
Wonderful, thanks. Very good perspective. Thanks, Satya. I'll just go through now as a final, instead of talking specifically about technology, we've touched on it and opportunities and challenges. Final comments. Is the future bright? Or how do we get there? I'll start with Teniola.
Final comment. I believe that the business model of MVNO is evolving. It's not static. So is the future bright? It has to be. That's what I'll say.
It has to be. Tony.
Well, is the future bright? It has to be. I think I'll just draw on one point I mentioned during my keynote, in that the only way this is going to really happen is collaboration. The idea that one man can do, and even the MNOs, they can do it all. We have to start removing that. If an MVNO can stimulate markets where you can and drive up a subscriber base for you, why don't you give them a chance? So yes, the future is bright, but it depends on how deep collaboration can be. And you had the sticky point of $1, $1.50. So it's still collaboration, and then also a real understanding of the market. Value proposition is really key. Okay, if you're not bringing, you have to bring something to the table. If you're not bringing anything to the table, nothing is going. There's no basis for collaboration in the first place.
Right, like something different.
Yes, yeah. It has to be totally different. You have to really, I think it's our prospective CEO you mentioned. One thing he said, which is very key, is you need to think and not think of starting small, okay, and try and grow incrementally. I think that's why he asked what percentage of the industry do you think you can capture. I know we spent a lot on the licenses, but it's telecom communication is a long play. And once you have a long player attitude, I think you'll be in it.
A lot of infrastructure in Africa is a long play, and but when the upsides come, they can be big. Abayomi, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. I do it's Ayobami, but a lot of people
Ayobami, pardon me. All
always
the
say
letters are
Ayobami.
the
I
same.
don't know
I was joking.
why. Anyways, I don't like talking people happy, just for the sake of talking people happy. I think we know that yes, this can work, but it will work only if everything eventually comes together. But in Nigeria always has a way of defiling every form of predictions. I remember when I see myself as sort of a telco veteran. I joined the industry in the early days, in the early 2000s in Nigeria, and I've now done this. I've worked with 4 operators in 3 countries. So I've seen Nigeria as the most interesting telecoms market ever. You remember when this all started? Everybody predicted there's no way we are reaching 1 million lines in 5 years, and we know the story today. So if anybody says never, I will never believe them. I believe that some things are going to make the push happen, with all these conversations we're having. So I want to say, let's keep the faith and do the right things, put in the right work. I believe it's possible. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Hamish?
Thank you. I certainly do think it's possible. Also, there's just a fantastic pent-up demand for telecom services in Nigeria, and we're really excited about the prospects. I think the NCC has been instrumental in bringing us this far with the MVNO licensing framework, and I think they've laid a great platform. I think there is some pushing and nudging that needs to happen to get us to the next stage, but then it's really for MVNOs and MNOs, but MVNOs in particular, to iterate, to launch, learn, iterate, and find their sweet spot to help their stakeholders and consumers, but the market in general.
Okay, so it seems like Oli.
I thought you were going to miss me out.
No. I still you.
Oh, really?
Okay. No, go on, please.
Okay, yeah, I agree with all the panelists. I think that there's some hurdles, but Nigeria is an interesting market. For those who are new to the market or who will enter, you can come and play. It's not just the MNOs you have to think about. There's the infracos, there's your data center people. You could add the costs. Look at the unit cost. In terms of IPNX, we've been in this game for 27 years. We understand the cost structures, so we are very optimistic. We have a customer base that is very excited about the proposition we're going to give, and it's about differentiation. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, so it seems the future is looking
future
good.
Is bright.
Satya.
It's not orange, but it's bright.
Thank you. From WTL's point of view, we actually 100% believe that there is a big opportunity. That's one of the reasons why WTL has actually invested into Nigeria. We have teams in Lagos and Abuja, technical team, project team, sales, network operating center to support the MVNO ecosystem completely. And I believe in Nigerian people. Every time I come there, I get really motivated. If you go onto the street and see the motivation to make it happen by end of the day, it really warms my heart. So I have certainly very much committed to Nigeria, and I believe it is going to happen. I think that mindset of leaving these peanuts and going for real cashew nuts is where we are going to cross that line in one of these days. And then I think we all will be very happy. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I like the go from peanuts to cashew nuts, and then perhaps we'll then grow from cashew nuts to something else. Coconuts. There you go. The bigger, the better. So it seems like a unanimous, the future is good, brightest, maybe not orange. Agility, very important. We have probably have a heterogeneous regulatory environment. Some technology challenges MVNO see as an opportunity for them to be able to innovate around. And of course, the innovation, if you do same old, it won't work. You need to do something else that grabs the market. All right, I'll go into questions, but let's thank the panelists for what they've done so far. Thanks. Therefore, any questions, please?
Good afternoon and well done to the panelists. My name is Tunji Alabi. I'm the Managing Director of Infratel Africa. I think what has happened in Nigeria is sort of putting the cart before the horse. I think the government is doing quite a number of things to ensure that the quality of service improves. What we have presently is we have a 44% broadband penetration rate in Nigeria. That means there's nearly 60% where there's no broadband at all. We have about 20% of rural communities that are unserved. We have 60 million people that are underserved. And when we talk about underserved, we mean where there's only one operator in that community. So we have about 23 million unserved that have no network, and 60 million that are underserved. That gives a total of about over 80 million that have terrible network. So what that means is that we have 120 million where everybody plays in. And there's no way that the MVNOs are going to come in and not cannibalize existing. Over the last 3 years, due to the dollar rate, we missed a lot of investment opportunities in the telecom space. So the MNOs have not really expanded their networks over the last 2 to 3 years. So there's no new money that has really come into the market, which means that we are about 5 years behind in terms of telecom investment. But you can see what the government is doing with its 90,000 kilometers of fiber, with its 7,000 rural telecom towers. The whole idea of this is to stimulate that market and expand the coverage and the quality of service. It's unfortunate that it's coming after the licenses have come out. Because if that had come before the licenses came out, then you'd have a good basis for competition. I think we're going to stagger along for the first few years till we get to a point where it begins to make sense. I don't think it will make sense. You can see that the MNOs are not even speaking to anyone now because they realize that the market that's covered is too small to share. I think over the next 1 or 2 years, things will begin to pan out, especially with the increase in tariff and the new mindsets and the stimulation that the government has put in place. So I think the future is bright. I think it's going to take about 2 to 3 years to actually realize the potential of the market, but we'll get there eventually.
So we'll get to a bright orange future from around about 3 years. Do you think the capital infrastructure into the infrastructure will be patient enough to wait 3 years?
It's too big to fail, the telecoms market. It's a very patient market, the Nigerian telecoms market. And we'll get there. New monies are coming in. The government is actually stimulating this economy. So I see things moving.
Nigeria sneezes and the whole of Africa catches a cold, and it sometimes gets reflected on the London Stock Exchange. Any other questions?
Tunde, can we come back to my brother here? He's done a fantastic job, and I think there's another company that's Hotspot, I think. Remember, I'm wearing my old hats, and I've seen companies come and go in Nigeria. So you're doing a fantastic job in the trenches. cost of rolling out infrastructure is quite significant because of the foreign exchange. So we should be looking at localization, local content we've been talking about. Government's been talking about fiber extension for eons now, 10 years as far as I'm concerned. And we're going to get there. The issue that we have essentially is that the consumers are impatient. They're impatient for quality of service, quality of experience. The 120 million you mentioned, if they could just improve that quality of service and quality of experience, Nigeria will be a different place. I've just come back from Frankfurt, and the quality there, I mean, they have black spots in Wi-Fi, even on the mobile, but the experience is better than what you get here. So even those that we are actually serving, we're not serving them well. So there's that discussion. I think the MVNOs think they can do a better job. I don't see it, because it's an infrastructure issue. And then you have this gap, and that gap has been there for eons, and I think our population is growing 3% per annum, and we're getting poorer per person. Again, that's a tough ask for any MNO or any MVNO to fix. We need government to come in with grants. I'm happy the 2 billion is coming. They got 900 million or so of millions of dollars commitment, but we need more than that, because the infrastructure gap is massive. Nigeria's 5 times the size of the UK, or 6 times. And my brother, you're doing a great job, because I've been around those areas, and we're in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja. We're cozy, we're fortunate, but we still have issues there. And I think the MVNO is a tool not to fix that.
And he's been at it for years, and he's looking good for it as well. Just quick one, well done. Quick one on that Frankfurt thing, and I see it in terms of what it means as opportunity for us. During COVID, Germany had a problem. They were well copperized, ADSL was what they had. When COVID came and you're on international call, people from Germany always had a problem, especially when their children were downloading, because ADSL could not flex. It was inelastic. But now you say Frankfurt, wonderful experience, right? So maybe that's a possibility. Tony, you wanted to comment? And then we'll open it for someone online.
Okay, I just don't want us to conflict some of these issues. Infrastructure is one kettle of fish, a big kettle of fish. And even when we're talking about quality of service, there are so many issues around power, vandalization, things of that nature. As somebody said, Nigeria is a very peculiar market. There's a solution we are working on, for example, my company. And I was at a conference, and somebody from Senegal was saying, power issues constitute about 20% of our challenges. I mean, that is Senegal. And I had to tell them that, look, power is more than 80 to 90% of the issue here. So let us understand the real challenges. Let's compare apples. Nigeria has very peculiar, very unique problems. Rural, for example, you don't want to know what you have to do to even have a rural site, talk less of an urban site. So let's not conflict it. The issue is that what is an MVNO? And what is an MVNO supposed to do? You're not coming to take or do anything on existing service offering. Your main value proposition is differentiation. And if you cannot differentiate as an MVNO, then you have no business being an MVNO. You can't come to an MNO and give a similar offering to what they are doing when they are already battling quality of service, battling low coverage due to lack of investment. If you're giving them an offering, say, look, I'm coming to the differentiation model that will allow you to deepen your customer base, that's a conversation. That's a conversation. But coming to offer a similar or simile, in whatever shape, guise, or form, it's a door closer. It's a door closer. So let's not mix it up. Infrastructure issues are prevalent, And even as an MVNO, you should be able to understand the market you're coming into and see where the value you can provide is. So, because if we start to talk about infrastructure, we start to talk about CNI and it's a low.
We'll do another conference
exactly
on
exactly.
that one. Yes, because we have some infrastructure things to discuss on challenges as well. But so tell the MNOs you're growing their market while you're going to do your own market.
Exactly.
Any from online, Hamish, Satya, Ayobami. Oh, okay.
Can I? Okay. Thank you very much. I think it's the last words anyway. Tunji is doing an excellent job connecting the unconnected population. He's a brother of mine for a long time there. Every time I come, I have to meet him and Olusula, have a drink. The main thing, one thing I wanted to comment on Tony's thing. He said that MVNO can start small and build. Humbly, the numbers don't add up. It's too low of an ARPU. So anyone who is coming, I really recommend that they have a proper plan to cross the minimum plateau of the subscriber base. They should have a plan. Why? You have a pipeline coming from MTN on Airtel, which can service 100 million subscribers. They have already built such kind of network. And when such kind of a pipe coming and you put a small bucket, it overflows. When it overflows, that means you give a bad service to your clients. When you give it, you will have a problem sustaining the market. So, as everyone is saying, Nigeria is peculiar, it's too big. So you have to have a plan such that you have minimum subscriber in your business plan. And I strongly recommend that. If not, the numbers wouldn't add up for you to sustain small number of subscribers with such a low ARPU. I wanted to comment that. There are so many MVNOs there, so a piece from my side. Thank you.
Taniola wanted to mention something here.
Yes, and he said it very well. I just wanted to also buttress, and maybe for the MVNOs here, I want to believe that every MVNO, before taking that license, you must have thought of your differentiating factor before considering the license in the first place. And also understanding that you're not competing with the host network. It doesn't make any sense to do that. Collaboration is the key. I looked at the UK, and I see the fact that they have over 50 MVNOs to date. We mentioned Virgin Mobile. We mentioned, Lebara, for instance, GiveGav. What is GiveGav doing as of today? They are doing fiber to home because their host network couldn't complete some ends, i.e. Milton Keys and the rest. So it's about collaboration, and it's just for the MNOs, which I think it's happening now, by the way. So it's that understanding that collaboration is there. I'm baffled when I keep hearing it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But we are here already anyways. So we better make it work. So if we are here, we have the license, we have the regulators. What can we do to make it work? And I think that's a question that we need to answer. Not precisely just giving up and saying, oh, waste of money.
Yeah. It might not also be a mono MNO. It's a you can have a multi MNO value proposition. Thanks. And one more question, if there's one. No? Yes? Okay, Tunji. Maybe, why are the MNOs not here, was the question.
And where are the regulator? Where's our regulator? Tell me.
Which regulator? Is
NCC.
this FCCPC?
My brother's in NCC.
NCC, right?
NCC
yes.
today.
So some MNOs are here. Okay. Maybe they therefore take the note back that it's about the big opportunity for them. It's not about affecting their own market. I guess in the absence, okay, one more, last one. And I think the press is here as well.
Thank you very much. Adeyemi is my name. I work with the Guardian newspapers. I will want Mr. Satya to talk more about the sharing formula. He said something earlier about being stuck at $1.50. I think it's, for some of us, it's confusing, but I want more insight into that. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Satya.
Yeah, hi. I said $1.50 because the average ARPU in the market is around 2,000 to 2,200 naira per subscriber. That's what MTN and Airtel are getting. Yeah. I think MTN gets a little bit more than other MNOs, but on an average, that is the ARPU in the market. That's what I said. Then that ARPU, what is there in the market, has to be shared with MVNOs. That means if you are trying to build a business case, sharing that kind of money and trying to argue to make a business case, it's not going to work. So MVNOs are innovators. They make more money. What they do is that they come and they put their hands into your pocket to take money for other services out of you, where you are spending 5,000 naira per month, for instance, like data network or education. If they can charge you 10,000 naira for your kid, but at the same time they can bundle the data with it, saying that if you take this course is already valuable, but we'll give you data. So they can do something else. But this 2,000, already there is a formula which NCC has put in place, how every tier can share that revenue with MNO, or MNO shares that revenue with MVNO either way. So that is too small for anyone to run a business, because end of the day, when you want to have 1 million subscribers, the amount of money you have to invest is the same around the world. Customer acquisition cost will be the same almost, and then customer support cost will be the same. The distribution cost will be the same. Money collection cost will be the same. Probably it will be lower in Nigeria because the salaries are low, but end of the day, the total infrastructure will cost you that money. And unfortunately, Nigeria is a dollar-connected country. Everything is imported. So you still have to connect yourself. The infrastructure comes from outside. Services are coming from outside. Consultancy is coming from outside, unfortunately, at this moment. And so that's the reason why I said $1.50. I said it in dollar instead of saying it in naira. So did I answer your question, or if you extend your question, maybe I can clarify.
So it might be it has a baseline ARPU on what you're running on. Then you need to multiply that with your value-added services. Okay, I'd like to, I had one hand up here. I was going to wrap up given the time. A quick one, and one person will answer.
The name is Hastrop Satya, Namish and everybody. I have been in this space for over 24 years now, MTN, MNO, and right now in the MVNO space. Yes, it is true that there are challenges with the infrastructure. But what we are saying, MVNO did not come into that. The MVNO was not really created to deal with that question. That is why, really, most of the tier 5s, yes, you want them to go to the underserved, you want them to go and build. You know the capex involved in it. That is why, over 10 years ago, IHS, American Towers, those things were ceded to them. But what will happen is this. With the competition coming in, you are forced to be innovative. You are forced to know that it will not work if you deal with voice and whatsoever. It is not going to work. And that has been always the thing we have pushed forward as the value proposition for MVNOs. But right now, because of the floor price had been one of the key stalling factors. But I think the next really key question that needs to be answered is the MNOs need to see the fact that no matter what, we are here to stay together. Let me explain why, sir. Remember, we have at a time, we were at 2 years ago, 84 million, 94 million. Then certain regulatory incidents happened. Notice that the numbers dropped sharply. Notice that. Right now, it started building up again. And what has happened? That 40 million is cycling with, we're a multi-SIM community. So what happens is this: if somebody, which is what the MVNO should do, can find a value proposition that makes the customer stick to you, you get it? It is not going to cannibalize, it's rather deepen the market. So for right now, it's happening in SA, Telcom, SA, MVNX. They are seeing the fact that we can bring other players into this bit and we can create a different value proposition. And most of them see the MVNO as their enterprise business segment. Do you understand? So that is, I think, the way we can go. And I believe with this conference, which you have done a good job of anchoring and doing a good job about, this is where the question should go. The MNOs should see that education should go round. It is a big pie, and it is worth it for us to all share it together. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your comment, and perhaps this will be the first in a series as we see the market building out. And I kind of picked up, you said, "Thou shalt not live by voice alone." Yes. So on that note, I would request we give a round of applause to our panelists. Great comments, great inputs. Thank you very much. And thank you very much all. I'll close the panel session now. Cheers.
Fly me to the moon and let me swing among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, The end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friends, I'll make it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've laid